I never thought I'd be the guy on here, but life has a way of throwing you into the deep end when you least expect it. My name's David, and I was married to Emily for about 5 years. We met in college, and she was always this fiery, bitchy girl who knew exactly what she wanted. At least, that's how I saw her back then. She was ambitious, driven, and always had this way of making herself the center of everything. I loved her, or at least I thought I did. We started our own business together a few years ago. It was our dream, and we worked so damn hard to turn it into something real. We finally secured a major funding round just a couple of months ago, which felt like a huge milestone. We were finally on the cusp of making it big. Things seemed perfect, until they weren't. The first signs of trouble started after the funding announcement. Emily became more distant, snapping at me over little things, and I caught her lying about where she was going or who she was seeing. Not that I was snooping. Well, maybe I was a little, but it was hard not to notice her phone lighting up constantly with messages from someone named Jake. She'd hide her phone whenever I came near, and I noticed her avoiding certain conversations entirely. I brushed it off initially, convincing myself that maybe she was just stressed from the business stuff. Then came the night I found out the truth. It was the night before our official launch, and we had just leased our new office space. I was exhausted but decided to do a quick walkthrough of the place, just to get a feel for the space before the big day. I wanted to check if everything was set up, look around one last time. I never expected to find her there, at least not in the way I did. I saw her through the glass doors and she was with Jake. I recognized him immediately, co-founder of our startup, the guy I trusted implicitly. They were in the middle of what I can only describe as a celebration. They had bottles of wine, glasses clinking, and they both looked way too comfortable. It wasn't just a working meeting or some late-night brainstorming session. No, they were clearly celebrating something. And I knew what that something was. My stomach dropped. They looked like they'd been at it for a while. Emily had her hand on Jake's chest and they were leaning in close, whispering stuff I couldn't hear. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. My wife, my partner, my best friend cheating on me right under my nose, right before the biggest day of our lives. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. My mind raced, trying to process what I was witnessing. It was like my whole world had just shattered into a million pieces. I stood there frozen, watching them for what felt like forever. It was surreal, the kind of moment where everything you believed in just collapses. I couldn't speak, I couldn't move. I just watched as Emily laughed, that bitchy, sarcastic laugh I used to love, and Jake's hand casually rested on her waist. The thing is, Emily would deny it if I confronted her. She's always been a liar, especially when she's caught in a lie. I knew that, but seeing it for myself made everything crystal clear. That night I didn't sleep. I kept replaying what I saw in my head over and over. The betrayal wasn't just about the affair. It was about the fact that she'd been cheating on me with my supposed partner, the guy I trusted most in the world. How could she be so cruel? How could she ruin everything we fought for just to satisfy some stupid, selfish need? It hurt so badly, but at the same time I felt this cold, burning fury building inside me. I knew I had to do something. I just didn't know what yet. The next morning I woke up feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. My head was pounding and my stomach was twisted into knots. I couldn't focus. All I kept thinking about was Emily and Jake and how they thought they were so smart, so sneaky. I stayed in bed, replaying the scene from the night before, trying to find some clarity. But all I could feel was a mixture of heartbreak and rage. I decided I needed answers. I couldn't go on pretending everything was fine, so I started digging. First, I checked her phone, something I normally wouldn't do, but I was desperate. I found a ton of messages, flirty, suggestive, almost like they were planning to meet somewhere outside of work. I saw texts from Jake telling her how gorgeous she looked, how he couldn't wait to see her again. And Emily's replies, bitchy, sarcastic, teasing. It was more than just a fling. It was obvious they'd been sneaking around for a while. I also looked into her email and social media. That's when I found the real kicker. She'd been hiding things, private conversations, secret plans, even a fake email account she used to talk to him without my knowledge. It was like she was actively covering her tracks, and I was just a fool for not noticing sooner. That night I sat her down. I had to confront her no matter how much it hurt. She was still acting like she didn't know what I was talking about, throwing her signature bitchy attitude and lying right to my face. She said I was paranoid, that I was reading too much into things, that I was overreacting. She called me jealous and controlling, and told me I was imagining things. But I knew better. I'd seen the truth with my own eyes. The way she brushed her hair back, that smirk when she thought I wasn't looking, that was the face of someone hiding something. I told her I knew about Jake. Her face flickered, and for a second she looked surprised, then angry. She snapped back with some bullshit excuse about how Jake was just a friend, that I was crazy, that I was accusing her for no reason. She said she was stressed out about the new office, about the launch, and that I was just paranoid and insecure. She accused me of not trusting her, of ruining everything we'd built, all the while lying straight to my face. It was like talking to a wall, a cold, bitchy wall. The emotional toll was brutal. It's one thing to suspect someone, another thing entirely to find out she's been lying and cheating behind your back. The shock, the betrayal, the feeling of being used, it all hit me hard. But what hurt even more was knowing that she'd been so manipulative, so dismissive of what we had, all while she was planning her little affair. She'd lied so much she convinced herself she was right, like she was the victim. I felt my anger boiling over. I wanted to scream, to yell, to break something, but I held it in. I knew I had to be smart about this. I couldn't just blow up and ruin everything without thinking it through. Still, the pain was overwhelming. I never thought she was capable of this kind of betrayal. I thought we were solid, that we fought through everything together. Turns out I was just a fool for trusting her. She had been plotting her exit, and I was the last to know. After the confrontation, I felt like I was walking around in a fog. Part of me wanted to believe her lies, wanted to cling to some shred of hope that she'd just been caught up in a moment of weakness or stress. But deep down, I knew better. She was smooth, too smooth, and she had been planning this for a while. The way she dismissed everything I said, the way she looked at me with that smug little smirk, she knew she had me fooled for years, and now she was just playing her last cards. I decided I needed to gather more evidence just to be sure. I couldn't let her spin her bullshit story without anything to back it up. I installed a keylogger on her laptop, which felt wrong, but I was desperate. I wanted to know exactly how deep this went, how long she'd been cheating, what she'd said to Jake in private. Over the next few days, I sifted through her messages, her emails, her social media. It was disgusting. I saw plans for them to meet up again, secret texts about how they couldn't wait to be alone, to finally do what they'd been craving for so long. Meanwhile, Emily kept up her act, pretending everything was normal, acting like I was overreacting, calling me insecure. She kept throwing "I love you" in my face as if that was supposed to make everything okay. But I wasn't buying it. I could see right through her. This wasn't just a fling. It was an affair, and she was willing to throw everything away for Jake's stupid, cocky face. One night I went back to that office space, just to look at it again, to get some clarity. I needed a moment alone, away from her lies. As I walked through the empty office, I looked around and realized how much we had put into this. The late nights, the arguments, the dreams, and now it all felt hollow, like she'd stolen. So much more than just my trust. She'd taken our future, our plans, everything. That's when I decided I had enough. I knew I had to confront her again, not just with words, but with a plan. I wasn't going to let her get away with this. I wanted her to know I wasn't some pushover. She'd pushed me far enough. I was going to make her pay for what she'd done. But I also knew I had to be careful. I had to keep my cool, gather my evidence, and think about what I really wanted. In the days that followed, I made arrangements to meet with a divorce lawyer. I knew I couldn't stay with her, not after what I'd seen and what I'd uncovered. This betrayal was too much. I was hurt, angry, and honestly disgusted. I'd been the fool trusting her, believing in our life together. Now all I wanted was justice, or at least some way to make her see what she'd lost. I wasn't going to be that guy who takes it quietly. Not anymore. Not after this. The day I finally decided to act, I felt like I was walking on a thin line between calm and complete chaos. I had all the evidence I needed, screenshots, saved messages, plans she'd made with Jake, and I was ready to confront her once and for all. But I also knew this wasn't just about catching her in the act. It was about making her realize what she was throwing away, what she'd done to us. I wasn't just angry, I was furious, and I wanted her to feel it too. That evening, I told her I wanted to talk. Her bitchy smirk was back, that look she always used when she thought she was in control. She tried to brush me off at first, acting like everything was fine, that I was overreacting. That's when I pulled out my phone, showing her the mountain of evidence I'd collected. I scrolled through the messages, the plans, the private conversations she thought I'd never see. Her face changed from smug to white as a sheet. She tried to deny it, of course. Said it was just sex, just some stupid thing she did out of boredom. That Jake was just a friend, and I was being paranoid. She even had the nerve to call me insecure. Yeah, right, like I'd be. That's stupid after everything I found. Her excuses were pathetic. She told me I was controlling, that I didn't trust her, that I was ruining everything. But all I saw was her trying to cover her ass because she knew she was caught. I felt the rage bubbling over. I told her I knew she'd been lying, cheating, and sneaking around behind my back for months. I told her I wasn't going to be some fool anymore, letting her manipulate me. I told her I'd had enough of her bitchy attitude, her lies, her fake tears when she thought I'd back down. But I wasn't backing down anymore. I told her I was done. She scoffed, started yelling, trying to turn it around on me. Said I was overreacting, that I was ruining her life, that I was a jealous, insecure fool, that she loved me, that she'd never do anything to hurt me. I didn't buy it. I knew better. I knew she was just trying to save her ass, to gaslight me into thinking I was crazy. But I stood my ground. I told her I wanted her out of the house immediately. I wanted her gone. The fight got nasty. She called me all sorts of names, controlling, jealous, insecure, trying to make me doubt myself. But I knew the truth. I was devastated, yeah, but somewhere deep inside I felt a strange sense of clarity. I'd been blind for so long, trusting someone who clearly didn't deserve it. I realized I couldn't save this marriage anymore, not after what she'd done. My heart felt like it was breaking, but I also felt this cold resolve. She was gone, and I was done being her pawn. After she stormed out, I sat alone in the quiet of the house, staring at the empty space where her things used to be. It was strange. Part of me was numb, part of me wanted to break down, but mostly I just felt exhausted. I knew I'd made the right choice, even if it didn't feel that way right now. The pain was fresh, raw, but I also knew this was the start of something new. I'd rebuild somehow. I'd heal. And I'd make sure she understood the damage she'd caused, because she wasn't going to get away with this without consequences. The days that followed were a blur of legal consultations, packing her things, and trying to piece myself back together. Honestly, I felt like a shell of myself. Every time I caught a glimpse of her stuff gone or her empty side of the bed, it hit me like a punch in the gut all over again. But I also knew I had to keep moving forward for my own sanity. I was angry, yes, but underneath that anger was a deep sense of betrayal that I didn't think I'd ever get over. Still, I was determined to come out of this stronger. I spent hours talking to the lawyer, drafting the divorce papers. I wanted everything clear-cut, full custody of our business, the house, the money. I didn't want her to get a single thing she didn't earn. The thought of her walking away with half of what we built together made me sick to my stomach. But I knew it was necessary. I wasn't going to let her continue to manipulate or lie her way out of this. She needed to understand that her actions had consequences. In the meantime, I cut off contact with her completely. No texts, no calls, nothing. It was better that way. I also started seeing a therapist, not because I was weak, but because I needed someone to help me process everything. Honestly, I felt betrayed, humiliated, and angry all at once. Every time I thought about the way she lied, the sneaking around, the way she'd used me, my stomach twisted. I kept asking myself how I could have been so blind. One night, I decided to go through our shared accounts just to see if she'd left anything behind, any traces of what she'd done, anything I might have overlooked. That's when I found some texts from Jake, one last message that was particularly telling. "Can't wait to finally be with you, babe. Tonight's the night." It made my blood boil. I realized she'd been planning this for a while, probably even before we secured the funding. She'd been cheating on me the entire time we were working so hard, building a future she was already planning to throw away. That realization hit me like a ton of bricks. All those late nights, all the sacrifices I made, she was just using me. Using my trust, my love, our dreams just for some stupid affair. It stung worse than I can say. But at the same time, I felt a strange sense of relief. I finally saw her for what she really was, a bitchy, manipulative woman who didn't care about anyone but herself. I knew then that I'd never let her get that close again. I'd learned my lesson the hard way. So I started focusing on myself, my health, my career, my future. It's funny how heartbreak can force you to reassess everything. I realized I'd been clinging to a fantasy, and now I had the chance to rebuild from the ground up. I wasn't going to let her destroy me completely, even if it still hurts like hell. I knew that someday I'd look back at this and see it as the point where I finally took control of my life again. And honestly, that's the only thing that kept me going. Sometimes, you have to hit rock bottom to realize your worth, and I was determined not to stay down for long. The hardest part now is just moving on, even though a part of me still feels like I'm carrying this burden around. Every time I see a photo of her with Jake or catch myself thinking about what I lost, it hits me all over again. But I've come to accept that some things just aren't meant to be. Betrayal like this doesn't come easy to heal from, and I know I'll probably carry some scars for a while. Still, I refuse to let this define me or break me completely. Looking back, I realize that I learned a lot about myself through all this chaos. I learned that trust is fragile, and that sometimes the people you love the most can turn out to be the biggest liars. I also learned that revenge isn't always about revenge. Sometimes it's about reclaiming your life, your dignity, and your future. I'm not bitter, just cautious. I know now that I have to be careful about who I give my trust to. This whole experience has made me realize what I want and what I don't want. I want honesty, loyalty, respect. And I refuse to settle for less anymore. I don't need someone who sneaks around and betrays me to feel complete. I can do that on my own. I can rebuild my life without her, and honestly, I will. It's not just about hurting her back because she hurt me. Although that was tempting, it's about proving to myself that I'm stronger than her lies and manipulations. So I'm moving forward. I've started focusing on my career, my friends, and my own happiness. I'm slowly rebuilding my trust in people, especially women, after being burned so badly. I've learned the hard way that sometimes the people closest to you can be the ones who hurt you the most. But I also know that not everyone is like her. There are good people out there, honest and loyal, waiting to be trusted again. This whole nightmare has been a brutal lesson, but I refuse to let it consume me. I'll carry the scars, sure, but I'll also carry the lessons. I'll keep my head high, knowing I did the right thing, standing up for myself, confronting the betrayal, and choosing my own path. And one day, I'll look back at this and realize that even the worst betrayals can lead to a better, stronger version of yourself. That's what I'm holding onto now. Just pure, unfiltered hope that I can come out of this with my dignity intact and a better future waiting.